There is a quiet dignity in a woman who walks under heaven's watchful eye. She does not need to shout her worth. She does not need to prove her power, because the Lord has whispered to her soul, "You are mine." And oh, what a mighty thing it is to be protected by God from the schemes, the plots, the venom of wicked souls. My sisters, listen closely, for I've seen women rise from ashes untouched by fire. I've watched queens dance through storms with crowns unshaken. And when you see her, when you feel her presence, you know this woman is not alone. She is covered. She is guarded. She is held. Let me tell you now, 8 sacred signs that a woman is divinely protected from evil. She sees beyond the mask. While others are captivated by smiles and sweet voices, she stands still, silent in her soul, and waits. Because she knows, oh yes, she knows that charm can be counterfeit and kindness can be cunning. She does not judge quickly, no. She watches. She listens. She discerns. There is a knowing within her, not learned from books or taught in schools, but whispered by the heavens. It is the gift of spiritual discernment, the divine ability to recognize what the eyes cannot see and the ears cannot hear. You see, this woman has learned that not everyone who says, "God bless you," is truly blessed. Not everyone who calls themselves friend means well. There are people who wear Sunday clothes and carry Monday poison. But she is not fooled. She walks with a God who reveals truth in silence. She doesn't need the lie to be loud to know it's a lie. She just feels the shift in the atmosphere when something isn't right, and when God speaks to her spirit, whether through a tug in her heart, a sudden restlessness, or a word in the night. She pays attention. She's learned to trust that inner pull, that small voice that says, "This is not for you." And though it may come softly, it is sure, it is steady, it is sacred. It is God, reaching out to her with wisdom beyond her years. People around her may question her decisions. But he seems nice. She's done nothing wrong to you. You're just being too sensitive. But she doesn't argue. She doesn't explain, because her protection doesn't require permission, and her discernment doesn't need public validation. She remembers the times she didn't listen. Oh yes, those painful times, when she ignored that still voice, when she allowed her logic to silence her spirit, and the price she paid. It taught her. It taught her to value the divine whisper more than loud opinions. Now she doesn't wait for proof to flee. She moves when the Spirit moves her. She leaves when peace leaves her. She doesn't wait for storms to come crashing through the windows. She reads the clouds, she feels the wind, and she walks away before the lightning strikes. That is not fear. That is faith. That is not suspicion. That is spiritual clarity. And because of it, she is protected from wolves in sheep's clothing. She is spared the heartbreak that could have destroyed her. She is kept from doors that lead to darkness and arms that carry danger. People wonder why she always seems to avoid the worst, why trouble misses her doorstep. It's not luck. It's not chance. It's not coincidence. It is discernment wrapped in obedience. It is God guiding her away from the traps of the enemy with invisible hands. This kind of woman does not move by what the world sees. She moves by what heaven reveals. And she is never blind. Not really. Because while others are distracted by appearance, she is focused on essence. She asks not, "What does this person look like?" but rather, "What does this spirit feel like?" There is a sacred strength in that. And because of it, she may walk alone. She walks slowly, but she walks safely. She walks wisely. She walks protected. So when you see her pause before she steps, or feel her spirit pull back before a relationship begins, don't rush her. Don't pressure her. Don't push her, because she's not being hesitant. She's being led. And the ones who are led by God, they never fall into the hands of evil unaware. She used to beg people to stay. With arms wide open and a heart even wider, she would hold on to folks who had long since let go. She would twist herself into versions unrecognizable, soften her voice, silence her needs, just to keep someone near. But those days are gone now, because now she sees that every loss was a lesson, and every goodbye was God being kind. She doesn't chase anymore. No, ma'am. She releases. She lets go with grace, not because she's cold-hearted, but because she finally understands when God removes, He is rescuing. See, when you are under divine protection, you don't just lose people. You lose poison. You lose confusion. You lose false comfort and counterfeit companionship. And in place of all that noise comes peace, a peace so steady, so deep, it makes you wonder how you ever lived without it. Oh, she cried when they left. Let's not lie about it. She mourned the disconnection. She felt the ache of absence in her bones. But now, in the stillness that follows, she recognizes the miracle. That silence, that empty space, that was God clearing the clutter so she could hear Him. She used to pray for relationships to work out. Now she prays, Lord, remove anything that is not meant for me. And He does. Swiftly, quietly, completely. And it stings sometimes, because the heart does not always understand what the Spirit knows. But with time, the truth shows itself. The drama disappears. The backbiting ends. The weight lifts. And she breathes again. Full, free breaths of peace. People will look at her and wonder, how can she be so calm when so many have walked away? They don't know what she knows. They don't see what she sees. That every person removed was protection in disguise. That God was not punishing her. He was preparing her. You see, evil often enters dressed in charm. It comes with smiles and shared secrets. But God in His mercy removes the disguise. He reveals hearts. He rearranges circles. He shuts doors, even when she was still standing in the threshold begging them to stay open. And now she doesn't argue with closed doors. She honors them. She no longer takes departure as rejection. She sees it as redirection. She understands that everyone who leaves is not a loss. Sometimes it's the enemy losing access. Sometimes it's heaven pulling rank over hell's intentions. And when they walk out, she doesn't run after them. She stands still, plants her feet, and says, God, I trust you. She's seen too much to doubt Him now. She's watched joy return to her mornings after betrayal exited her nights. She's seen her mind grow sharper, and her spirit grow stronger when the wrong hands released her. She's discovered a sacred stillness that only comes when the wrong noise is gone. And here's the mystery: the more she loses what is not meant for her, the more she gains what is. In losing people, she finds herself. In saying goodbye, she greets her purpose. In the emptying, she is filled with divine peace, with heavenly focus, with a love that doesn't hurt. People ask her, aren't you tired of starting over? She smiles and says, I'm not starting over, I'm stepping up. Because every loss was a ladder, every betrayal a bridge, every exit a divine exhale. She's not bitter. She's better. She's not lonely. She's light. Because when God takes, it's only to make room. And the peace she carries now. Oh, that peace was purchased by letting go. And let me tell you something. When a woman learns how to let go, not out of anger but out of wisdom, not with vengeance but with vision, there's nothing more powerful than that. She is no longer held hostage by who left. She is held together by who stayed. And God never leaves. She walks alone, but never alone. Oh, the world may look at her and see solitude, a woman dining by herself, walking in quiet places, standing at the edge of a crowd without a hand to hold. They may think she's lonely, pitiful even, because they measure value by noise and companionship by numbers. But what they do not see, what they cannot see, is the divine presence that wraps around her like a shawl on a cold morning. She is not abandoned, she is accompanied. There is a power in her stillness, a strength in her silence. She has learned to be at home with herself, to dwell in her own spirit, and enjoy the sound of her own soul breathing. She has dined with disappointment and made peace with pain. She has walked through valleys with only the moon to witness her prayers, and yet she has never been forsaken. Because God walks with her. He speaks to her not just in church pews and gospel songs, but in the rhythm of her footsteps, in the quiet hum of the morning, in the wind that brushes her cheek like a loving mother's hand. He keeps her company in ways no human hand ever could. She has learned that solitude is not a sentence, it is sanctuary. While others run from being alone, filling their hours with chatter and screens and shallow affection, she retreats into the sacred space where God's voice is clearest. And there, in the holy hush of aloneness, she is reminded that she is not empty. She is full. Full of wisdom, full of vision, full of light that cannot be dimmed. There were days, yes, when loneliness knocked at her door, when she ached for the warmth of company, when the silence roared louder than any crowd. But over time, she realized that some of the loneliest moments came when she was surrounded by the wrong people. Some of the deepest wounds were caused by those who claimed to love her, and so she stopped settling. She stopped inviting chaos in for the sake of company. Now, she chooses peace over presence. She chooses soul over social. You'll find her laughing to herself on a park bench, humming hymns while the sun sets. She's not waiting on someone to come and complete her. She is already whole. She's not holding her breath for a rescuer. Her rescue came when she learned to breathe in God's nearness and exhale the fear of being forgotten. She knows she is seen. She knows she is loved. Because in the quiet, God calls her daughter. In the stillness, He reminds her of her name. Not the name the world gave her. Too much, too sensitive, too quiet, too strong. But the name He placed in her spirit, beloved, cherished, mine. And when you walk with that kind of identity, you don't fear the empty chair. You honor it. You bless the space around you. You fill the air with gratitude because you know you are never alone. The angels make room at her table. Grace covers her shoulders. Mercy follows behind her like a loyal friend. So don't pity her when you see her walking by herself. Don't ask her why she's always alone. Because she's not. She is surrounded by the invisible. Strength walks beside her. Wisdom whispers in her ear. God Himself holds her upright when the world tries to weigh her down. She is alone in body, perhaps, but in spirit she is never outnumbered. She walks with the Almighty, and that, my dear, is the most divine companionship of all. They tried to break her. They threw words like stones, sharp and deliberate, hoping to pierce her spirit. They twisted truth, gossiped in corners, planted seeds of doubt in the gardens of her reputation. They smiled with their lips and struck with their hands. Sometimes not the physical kind, but the kind that slap you with betrayal, the kind that strangle your peace in silence. But she kept standing. Not because she was invincible, but because she was held. Not because she never stumbled, but because every time she fell, the hand of God reached down and lifted her back up. And when her legs shook and her knees buckled, heaven whispered, "You were made to rise." They couldn't understand her endurance, couldn't fathom how a woman they tried to bury kept blooming like wildflowers through concrete. They'd ask, how is she still smiling? They didn't know. Smiling wasn't her defiance. It was her deliverance. She didn't survive by luck. She survived by grace. While her enemies were plotting, God was planting. While they dug ditches, God was paving roads. While they whispered curses, God sang over her with blessings. And every scar she carries, it is no longer a source of shame. It is a badge of survival, a holy mark that says, I've been through the fire, and I came out gold. They tried to take her voice, but her silence spoke louder. They tried to steal her joy, but she learned joy wasn't a feeling. It was a decision. They tried to shame her name, but God gave her a new one, victorious. She didn't clap back. She didn't expose. She didn't need to stand on stages shouting her truth. Because when you are covered by the Almighty, your vindication doesn't come from revenge. It comes from resilience. She is a walking contradiction to every lie told about her. She is proof that you can walk through hell and not smell of smoke. She is evidence that no weapon formed against her could prosper. Though many were formed, though many were aimed, but they all missed their mark. And the thing about being protected by God is this: you don't have to explain why you're still here. You don't have to justify your peace, your smile, your success. God explains for you, through your continued rise, through your unshaken joy, through the fruit you bear despite the famine they tried to cause. They watched and waited for her downfall, but God wrote ascension into her story. She rose, not bitter but better, not hard but holy, not full of revenge but full of revelation, because in the breaking she found her builder. In the fire she found her faith, and in the darkest nights she found the light that never leaves. Now she walks with that knowing, that divine knowing, that she doesn't have to fear who comes against her, because she knows who goes before her. That even when lies are louder than truth, God's justice is never late. That evil may get a moment, but God gets the final word. And let me tell you something. When a woman understands that no enemy can write her ending, she becomes unstoppable. When she realizes her survival is a sermon, she stops defending and starts declaring. She is not still standing by accident. She is standing by anointing. And those who sought to harm her, they became her footstools. Not because she demanded it, but because heaven decreed it. So now every step she takes is proof that the battle was never hers, and still she won. She does not chase the spotlight. While others run toward applause, she walks in quiet purpose. While some crave validation, she bows her head in reverence, content to be known by heaven, even if forgotten by the world. There is something sacred about a woman who understands that favor is not always loud, and blessings are not always broadcasted. She doesn't need to announce her every move. Her life speaks for itself. You see, when a woman is protected by God, she learns early on that visibility is not the same as value. She has no desire to compete with noise, for she has discovered the beauty of being hidden in plain sight. While others perform, she produces. While they pose, she prays. She is not concerned with being seen by the crowd. She is focused on being seen by the Creator. And let me tell you, there is no stage more powerful than the altar of obedience. No applause greater than the whisper of God saying, "Well done." This woman knows that every open door doesn't come from heaven. Some opportunities are traps with velvet ropes. Some platforms are built to collapse. But she waits, not with impatience, but with purpose. She doesn't chase blessings. She attracts them. She walks in alignment, and what is meant for her finds her. Not a second too early, not a moment too late. She's not lazy, no. She works hard. She builds in silence. She plants seeds where no one else is looking. But she doesn't post every move, doesn't need to prove every step. Because when you're called by God, your fruit will speak louder than your feed. The outcome will testify of the inner work. The world might ask, where has she been? But when God says it's time, she will arrive fully formed. Not because she demanded the spotlight, but because she earned the oil. You see, favor has a fragrance. And you can't fake it. It lingers in rooms long after she's gone. It shows up in how she speaks, measured, thoughtful, full of grace. It shows up in her presence, calm, commanding without arrogance. She doesn't have to shout to be heard. Her very being carries the evidence of divine appointment. People try to figure her out. They wonder how she keeps rising without promotion, how doors open without networking, how her name shows up in rooms she never entered. But it's not her doing, it's God's. Because when a woman has heaven's approval, earth takes notice. When God is her publicist, there's no need for self-promotion. When God is her covering, no smear campaign can stick. She is not desperate for exposure, because she knows exposure without preparation is dangerous. She would rather be developed in the dark than destroyed in the light. And so she waits, with a peace that passes understanding, knowing that what's hers is hers. Not by might, not by manipulation, but by divine orchestration. People may overlook her. Let them. They may underestimate her. Let them. Because every time they do, God adds another layer of favor, another level of grace. She is content to walk quietly because she knows that when God elevates, no one can deny it. And when He hides, it's for her protection. Even in obscurity, she is being preserved, built up, strengthened, made whole. And when the time comes, when the trumpet of destiny sounds, she will step forth. Not desperate, not unready, but steady, certain, glowing with the light of someone who never had to force anything. Because when a woman is chosen by God, she doesn't chase, she becomes. And that, my dear, is more powerful than any spotlight could ever offer. She does not fear endings. Where others tremble at the closing of a chapter, she turns the page with grace. While some hold on to yesterday with trembling hands and tearful pleas, she stands with her spine straight and her heart steady, saying, if it's time to go, then let it be gone. Because she has learned, through tears, through trials, through truth, that when something ends, it is because something greater is beginning. You see, she has grown beyond the need to keep what no longer fits. She no longer stretches herself than trying to squeeze into the spaces she has outgrown. She no longer pours herself into cracked vessels. She no longer stays for the sake of sentiment. She walks away when the season shifts, not out of pride, but out of peace. It takes strength to say goodbye. It takes courage to walk away without bitterness. It takes faith to let go of the familiar and trust what you cannot yet see. And she has all three. They used to call her weak when she stayed and selfish when she left. But she's not moved by labels anymore, because she knows who she is. More than that, she knows who she is. And when God whispers, it's over, she listens. She honors the voice of her Creator over the noise of the crowd. Sometimes the goodbye comes easy, a fading friendship, a drifting connection. Other times it rips through her like a storm, tearing up roots she thought were permanent. But even then, even in the heartbreak, she trusts the hand behind the pruning. She knows that when God cuts something away, it is not to hurt her but to heal her, not to punish her but to prepare her. The world tells her to fear change. God teaches her to embrace it. Because every ending she has ever faced has led to something better. Every door that closed redirected her to one that opened wider. Every person who left made room for someone more aligned. She doesn't beg anymore. She doesn't bargain with what's meant to be temporary. She blesses it and lets it go. She's not hard. She's wise. Not cold-hearted, just clear-minded. She remembers how she used to weep over losses that now make her smile. How she once mourned the departure of people who were never meant to stay. And so, with every new ending, she doesn't fall apart. She grows, she rises, she says, "Thank you for the time, and now I release you." She carries the gift of release with grace, because she's seen what clinging can cost. A delayed destiny, a weary soul, a distracted purpose. And she refuses to forfeit her future for the comfort of the past. Some people don't understand it. They think she's too quick to move on. But they don't know the prayers she's prayed. They don't know the dreams she's held. They don't know the sacred vows she's made with God. Whatever is not of you, I don't want it. Even if it breaks my heart, take it away. And He has. Gently, faithfully, thoroughly. And she has learned to trust Him in the taking just as much as in the giving. She knows now that some things end because their assignment is complete. Some relationships expire because they were seasonal, not eternal. and some doors shut because what lies behind them would have broken her beyond repair. So she walks on, not with regret, but with reverence, not with fear, but with faith. Her steps are light, her eyes forward, her spirit strong. She doesn't need to understand everything to trust God with everything. And when the world watches her walk away and wonders how she does it with such calm, they do not realize she is not walking away. She is walking toward her healing, toward her purpose, toward her becoming. Because when a woman knows how to honor endings, she invites beginnings with open arms, and there is no stopping a soul who has mastered the art of release. She listens. Oh, not just with her ears. No, child. She listens with her soul, with the quiet knowing that doesn't need proof to be persuaded, doesn't need volume to be heard. She's learned that God doesn't always shout. Sometimes he whispers. Sometimes he nudges. Sometimes he simply stills her spirit until the noise of the world fades and his presence becomes the only sound that matters. You see, a woman protected by God doesn't move just because others are running. She waits. She discerns. She prays. She leans in with her heart wide open and her ego laid down. Because she's not trying to be right, she's trying to be aligned. There is something holy about a woman who refuses to rush. While others react, she reflects. While others panic, she prays. While others follow trends, she follows truth. She's not guided by emotions, though she feels deeply. She's not ruled by fear, though she's known its cold touch. Her compass is divine, calibrated by trust and sharpened by experience. She's walked through too many storms to mistake thunder for guidance. She knows the difference between her own desire and God's direction. And when God speaks, my, she doesn't just hear it, she heads it. She doesn't need a sign in the sky. Sometimes all it takes is a sense, a pause, a quiet wait in her spirit. And she honors it, because she knows that peace isn't always in the loud places. Sometimes peace is the warning that saves her. Sometimes it's the reason she walks away when everything looks good on paper but feels off in her soul. There were times, yes, when she ignored that still small voice. When she went ahead anyway, and it cost her. Oh, how it cost her. She learned that when you silence God's whisper, life will roar back with regret. So now she listens. Closely, constantly, carefully. It may seem strange to others, they say, why won't she just do it? Or, what is she waiting for? But she's not waiting on circumstances. She's waiting on clarity. And when God gives her the green light, she moves without hesitation. But until then, she stays still, unmoved, anchored. And in that stillness, God surrounds her. In that obedience, he shields her. In that trust, he honors her. That is why her steps are sure. That is why her decisions, even when questioned by the crowd, prove to be full of wisdom. Because she is not led by the world. She is led by the word. She walks in step with heaven, and that walk may not be flashy, but it is faithful. She may not always know where the road leads, but she knows who's walking it with her. And that is enough. The enemy cannot confuse a woman who is in tune with God. Manipulators can't control her. False prophets can't fool her. Temptation can't trick her, because she has trained her spirit to recognize truth. She has surrendered her will enough times to know that God's way is always better. Even when it's slower, even when it's lonelier, even when it requires more faith than facts. She knows when to move and when to be still. She knows when to speak and when to stay silent. She knows when to say yes and when to offer a holy, uncompromising no. And because of this, God protects her, not just from danger, but from distraction, not just from harm, but from haste, not just from enemies, but from errors. She is not perfect, no, but she is postured to hear, postured to trust, postured to obey. And that, beloved, is a shield no sword can pierce. She carries peace like a perfume, It clings to her presence before she speaks, before she enters, before she even opens her mouth. It moves ahead of her like a soft wind, and lingers behind her like the scent of spring rain. She doesn't just know peace. She is peace. Not because life has been kind, but because she has been kept. Not because the road was easy, but because the presence of God made every crooked place bearable. You see, a woman protected by God walks differently. She does not rush. She does not flinch. She does not carry the bitterness of her battles or the chaos of her past. She has learned how to rest in the middle of the storm. She has learned how to lay her burdens down without picking them up again. She has discovered that peace is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of God within them. And oh, how that peace changes everything. She has faced loss, but it did not steal her hope. She has seen betrayal, but it did not poison her spirit. She has walked through fire, and somehow the flames refined her rather than consumed her. Because when God wraps himself around a woman, he becomes her shelter, her stillness, her silent strength. While others chase security in the hands of men or the numbers in a bank, she sits under the wings of the Almighty. Her peace is not man-made. It is not situational. It is supernatural. And because of that, it cannot be stolen. She doesn't retaliate when wronged. She doesn't clap back when attacked. Not because she doesn't know how, but because she has no need to. She understands that vengeance is the Lord's. And she would rather protect her peace than prove a point. She would rather walk away whole than stay and win a battle that costs her spirit. There is wisdom in her stillness. There is fire beneath her calm. People misread her quiet for weakness, not knowing that it takes great strength to be unmoved in a world that thrives on frenzy. She chooses her battles. She knows the sound of her Father's voice and waits for his cue, not the crowd's clamor. She is not easily rattled. She is not easily swayed. Because she has already survived the storms they thought would break her. She laughs now, not because everything is perfect, but because her soul is rooted in promise. She walks with her head high, not because she has never fallen, but because she knows who lifted her when she did. Her joy is not performative. It is deep, well-watered, born of truth and trust and time spent in the secret place. Even when she is misunderstood, she keeps her peace. Even when she is misjudged, she holds her ground, because she knows that being protected by God means being preserved, mind, body, and soul. Her peace makes people pause. It calms rooms. It silences chaos. It heals. And this is why the enemy cannot get to her easily, because peace is a gatekeeper.